my name is Palma Accardi, and you are watching Tidal Flooding Talk on our 1-year anniversary of the show. We're here at the Irish Pub in Atlantic City, and we're brought to you by the New Jersey Coastal Coalition.
And I'm meteorologist Dan Skeldon. Thank you for joining us. It's been 1 year since we embarked on this quest, and about 1 year and like 1 week ago, the gentleman to my left, your right, was sitting between us as we were doing a practice tidal flooding.
Guinea pig.
True. Yes, I was a guinea pig.
Tom Heist from Tom Heist Insurance in Ocean City, and a supporter of the Coastal Coalition who we are so proud to have, and you play a vital role in everything we do. So Tom,
Thank you,
being
Dan.
here.
Thank you very much. I really
Thanks
appreciate
for
being
joining
here.
us.
Thank you, Palma. You guys have done a great job in the last year. You've had a lot of talks educating the public, and I'm just thrilled to be here, and I'm thrilled that we're still alive a year later.
Still alive a year later, hopefully for many years to come. We did not have to do a mock one with Tom this time, so I think we're seasoned enough now where we can do these shows every week. As Palma said, every week from the Irish Pub, 7 p.m. on Sunday nights, unless the Eagles are in a Super Bowl or there's a major winter storm or we have technical difficulties. I will say, just right off the top, there are 2 threats for tidal flooding in the next 5 days. And that's something we haven't had to contend with much this winter, right? It's been
We
pretty
haven't.
quiet.
No,
Ocean City and Margate.
There's been a few days, though.
There's been a few.
You look out and
Yes.
wow, 10 years ago you didn't see these events.
Right.
So what should we anticipate, Dan? For
Tomorrow morning, so this is an imminent one tomorrow morning. There'll be some minor tidal flooding, coastal flood advisory, Atlantic and Cape May counties. So it's most of the South Jersey shore. High tides around 7 a.m. So if you're sleeping in tomorrow, it's President's Day. You live in an especially flood-prone area. Just be wary, a little minor tidal flood.
Park your car somewhere safe.
That's right.
That's the key, really.
That's right. Now, minor tidal flooding is better than something like we had President's Day 2003. You remember what happened there? About 2 feet of snow. Yeah. We've had big President's Day weekend storms before. This is not one of them. Some minor tidal flooding Monday morning, and then probably some minor tidal flooding Wednesday as well. We have a full moon. We got a couple of minor storms, so some minor tidal flooding. The Wednesday storm might bring an inch or 2 of snow, but don't shovel it. It gets washed away by rain.
Okay.
That's good.
All right.
That's plus.
All right, so all the weather out of the way. Welcome, and let's get started on our 1-year anniversary show.
Great.
So, Tom, since you've been on the show last, which I think there was actually a time you're on the show.
I think it's my
right in the
third
middle.
visit, yes.
But what has
Thank you.
been the most significant news in flood insurance?
Oh, great question. I would say there's some stability in the program. We're seeing less changes. A few years ago, it was like every 3 months they were changing the program. I think it was very disruptive. So things have calmed down a lot. And really the great news is we're seeing competition, which is huge because in the old days it was just FEMA that offered flood policies. So today we're seeing a growing marketplace of competitors to FEMA. And that's a great thing. It's great.
That's great, price-wise, especially, right?
It really is.
In addition to price, what are the other benefits of competition?
Well, there's actually way better coverage as well.
Okay.
So in terms of price savings, we're seeing savings between 15 and 30%. So if someone's paying $3,000 and they get a bill for $2,000, it usually makes them happy.
Right.
And it really depends on the property. I can't just make a blanket statement and say everyone's going to save 30% because it just is not true. But there's a lot of people out there saving money today, and there's way more markets coming in and offering coverage and premium proposals. So I'll talk about the coverage in a few minutes.
Well, what other pros and cons are there with this expansion of the private market?
Well, private market has only been around for a few years. So we don't have that long-term look of sustainability. I expect it's not going anywhere. FEMA gets their rate increase every year. Last year, I think it was 12%. This year, they're looking for another 7%. That's going to happen effective April 1st as an average rate increase. Some people will be higher, some people will be lower, but the average rate increase is 7%. So FEMA just keeps chipping away, adding premium every year. And now private market's coming in saying, we're going to offer premium for way less. But I don't know what it's going to be 5 years from now. Are they going to be the same as FEMA? Are they going to be lower than FEMA? So we just don't have that crystal ball. So the second thing is, FEMA pays claims with adjusters that essentially live in a camper. They live in a Winnebago, and they drive from flood to flood and adjust claims. So we kind of know how FEMA does it. Private market is going to be using local adjusters, the same adjusters that are in each community adjusting wind claims, fire claims, and all the other types of homeowners claims that we see. So it'll kind of be new to those adjusters. I don't expect they'll do a bad job. It'll just be different.
Do you think it'll be a good thing to have people that know this area so well?
I
to be
do.
Adjusted?
I personally do. I think that they live in this community. They're going to know the policyholders. I think they might care a little bit differently. Not that the FEMA adjusters didn't care, but they didn't live here. They just drive in, adjust a claim, and go home. So it's going to be people that are part of our community adjusting these claims, and I think that overall should be a good thing.
And one of the perks of the coalition, one thing they've been working on, for quite some time, is this multi-jurisdictional. Everyone getting together, sharing ideas. It's one of the founding principles of the Coastal Coalition, and we see that continuing, and we see communities continuing to improve their rating level, if you will.
Yes.
And the lower they go down, the lower the number, the better they are. So,
Yeah.
and that means savings for not just a couple of homeowners. It means savings for an entire community.
You really make a great point, Dan, in that a lot has changed with FEMA, but also locally. The town administrators are talking to each other on a monthly basis. They're learning from each other what works and what doesn't work. And I really think that's been a huge benefit to the people in our community that they don't really see that benefit.
Right.
But we saw CL City come out of the gates with a 35% discount,
Which is huge.
Which is huge.
Right. I mean, if it's a $3,000 policy, you did the math earlier. That's $1,000 off right there.
It's a lot of money.
Right.
Exactly. So the other communities are talking to CL and learning what did you do to get your application, get the most points to give you the most discount or the highest discount. And I think it's kind of putting a little peer pressure on all the local communities to say, we want to get as much of a discount for our policyholders as well.
And that's one great thing you said that happens. You don't see it. You get to experience the savings, but the Coastal Coalition has monthly meetings. Now, they're not open to the public, but representatives from all the communities that are part of the coalition are invited. They talk, they share, and often there are presentations there where they learn additional things as well. And ideally, everyone wants to get to Sea Isle, or even surpass Sea Isle if that's possible. And it is. I mean,
it's how high you set the bar.
Right, absolutely, and that's something you don't see on a daily or monthly, or really at all, but you see it reflected in your savings.
I would say without the Coastal Coalition, Sea Isle probably would have never gotten to that 35%, and the other towns probably wouldn't care. And, but that peer pressure, the fact that they meet monthly, and everyone wants to reach the highest bar.
So back to your opening point, competition here is good as well.
Yes.
I mean, it's not really competition amongst communities.
No.
It's not. It's not competing against each other, but it's working with each other to all achieve that.
Dan, it's like if you lose 5 pounds, I want to lose 5 pounds too. So it's a friendly competition.
That's a good point. It's a good way to put it.
Now, you mentioned a 7% increase for FEMA.
Yes.
Are there any other changes in policy fees?
Yeah, there actually is a great change. People who live in single-family homes as their primary occupancy get the lowest amount of fees. Every policy has a fee structure, so they get the lowest, and the people that rent their property out to others or have a commercial property, they pay really $100 more for just in fees. So FEMA recognized that might not be fair to someone who lives in a building that has 2 to 4 units.
Okay.
So
it was for multifamily in 2 to 4, even if it is your primary residence, you
paid the higher fee.
Okay.
And now FEMA says if you're in a 2 to 4 family building and it's your primary occupancy, you're going to be paying $25 as fees instead of $125. And I think that's the right thing to do.
Absolutely.
So there's people who have duplexes and triplexes, and they were paying fees like they were in a commercial building, and that just isn't right.
Do people, I mean, flood insurance has always been either misunderstood or complex or, something that people don't really have their hands and heads wrapped around. Has it become more clear? Has what you do and hopefully what we do, and also just the more competition and hopefully the simplifying of things, is it a better understood
I think
medium now?
Well, you know what, I do. I think these talks that you have weekly, I think all the articles in the newspapers, and certainly the advice that we give our customers as insurance agents every day, people are becoming more educated. They're learning. If you don't have an elevation certificate, you really should go out and get that.
And we've had multiple shows on that, and that's
Yes.
something that we've just tried to drive home about raising your home, about elevation certificates.
Yes.
They've been common themes that have been intertwined into all our shows over the past year.
Yes.
I think recently a lot of policyholders are getting letters, another round of letters from their insurance companies asking for elevation certificates again. Can you tell us what you do with that information?
Yes.
Once you receive someone's elevation certificate, do you review it? Do you
Great question.
see how they could improve?
Great question. So they get the letter, and some people think it's mandatory. Like, oh my gosh, I got this letter, I got to go out and get this elevation certificate. It's not required. You're not going to have your policy canceled if you don't do it. But what we found and what FEMA knows is that if someone has an elevation certificate, there's probably a good chance that they're going to get a lower rate. So FEMA is required to give the better rate of either the rate they're paying today or the elevation certificate. It can't hurt you. So there's no really downside other than paying a surveyor, the $300 to $400 to go out and do this elevation certificate. It might not save premium, but I've had cases with our customers where they were paying $3,500 or $3,000, and with the elevation certificate, it brought it down to $1,200. So older homes, it's all about height, and there's older homes out there that are in the air, 2, 3, 4 steps up in the air, and FEMA is saying all those old homes are on the ground. So you're paying a rate as if your home is sitting flat on the ground. And
So, sorry to interrupt. Without having the elevation certificate sent in, the rate is based off of.
they're guessing. FEMA's saying, we don't know how high your home is. We're just going to assume it's sitting on the ground.
Right. They're going to give you the
worst
least
rate.
benefit of the doubt, right? The worst rate, right? So you have to prove to them
Yes.
that you deserve better.
Yes. So if your home is up a few steps, it's probably going to save you some money.
So every step helps.
Every inch helps.
Every inch helps.
It does.
Right.
With flood. But one of the really awesome things about private market is they don't care about the elevation certificate. That's not a part of their application. So my first recommendation would be talk to your insurance agent and see if you're eligible for a private market quote. Again, it's not going to be for every customer, but I'll bet we can help 3 or 4 out of 5. So you find out if you can get a quote, and chances are if you get that quote through private market, there's going to be no elevation certificate required. And the other awesome thing is there's no vent requirement. So where venting is so important to FEMA,
And we've had shows on that as well.
private market could care less about vents. So the easy thing to do is just call your insurance agent and say, am I eligible for private market?
Okay.
Now, can you explain the venting a little bit more?
Yes. FEMA requires that all of their policyholders have vents in their home, not air vents, but flood vents. And a flood vent is designed to let water flow under the home in the event there's a major flood. FEMA believes that the vents relieve the pressure on the foundation and will help the home survive a major flood. Private market doesn't necessarily agree with that belief. But back to the requirement, FEMA says that for every square inch or square foot of your footprint of your home, so if your footprint is 1,000 square feet, you need 1,000 square inches of venting. And each vent has about 300 square inches of venting space. So if you have 1,000 square foot home, you need probably 4 vents in your home.
How does your job change? We had the flurry of major events. We had Sandy, we had Jonas. I think those are the two really big ones along the shore. And obviously, that's pardon the horrible pun. It's a flood of business for a lot of area industries. Let's say in the next 20 years, we go free of any big storms. I mean, how does that impact your job, public awareness? And let's contrast that with what if we had another major storm or two in those 20 years.
Yeah, that's a great question. The base flood that every community has, is where FEMA says that whatever that number is, and it might be 8 or 9 feet, FEMA says that level has a 1% chance of having a flood in 100 years.
Okay. So that's where that every 100-year storm.
The 100-year storm
layer
is
term
the
comes
base
from.
flood elevation. Most communities and everyone in our Cape May and Atlantic counties has around 2 feet of freeboard over that requirement. So if FEMA's at 9, then most communities say if you're building a new home, it has to be at 11. Okay. So there's a pretty good cushion there. So I think as people are elevating their homes, tearing them down, and rebuilding, the chance of having, even if we have a Sandy type event, I think most homes are going to survive it and do very well. So I'm very bullish on the shore. I think there's been a lot of mitigation done. I think more people are prepared for the next storm.
I think having a big one in our generation helps. It helps awareness.
The
obviously.
memory is still
right
alive.
because I mean, up until Sandy, let's say, a lot of people had to harken back to the '62 storm.
Yes.
There was Gloria. There was the '92 nor'easter. December '92. I believe Halloween, the perfect storm '91. There were events,
right.
But I just think learning that you are not immune to it and being, you can be hit. I think Sandy kind of woke the Jersey Shore up, and you mentioned all the efforts, the house raising, the venting, the pumping stations, the mitigation, so that the next one, ideally, will not. I mean, it could be the same strength as Sandy. It could even be a little worse than Sandy, but the impact may not be quite as bad if we're more prepared.
I agree. And there's this FEMA statistic that I heard over the course of FEMA being in the flood business. 3% of the structures have caused 28% of the losses. So 3% of the buildings out there has caused 28% of all the claim payments.
And those are probably the homes that are on the ground.
So
those
they're
are the homes
lower.
Right.
They're lower to the ground, and they have repeated claims. Someone gets their flood claim payment, they dry out their carpeting, they fix their drywall. 5 years later, next storm rolls in and they have another claim. And that has happened. Some people have had 5 and 6 and 7 claims, and FEMA basically said, we can't do this forever. It's time to fix these low-lying structures. Now, from a consumer standpoint, they say, I didn't do anything wrong. I built this home in compliance back in 1965. Right. And, it's not my fault that the water is rising. And there's truth to that as well. But FEMA has already paid out close to $30 billion in flood claims. And they're actually have paid more than they've collected. So they paid $30 billion more than they've actually received in premium payments. Right. And they just have said, we got to just stop. And so it's happening kind of slowly through these rate increases that FEMA, and the low-lying structures are getting the highest rate increases. The people that are elevated are getting lower rate increases, and really all people are now eligible for private market. So,
and you will eventually have those low-lying structures either all elevated, all sold and knocked down, and something. I mean, eventually, whether it's 10 years or 70 years or whatever that length of time is, every structure along the Jersey Shore will not be on ground level. Will be to some degree 9, 10, 11
Now, do you think that the rate increases for the low-lying structures is almost forcing them to elevate?
Yes, I do. I think in some cases the cost of flood insurance is putting a lot of economic pressure on people to either sell or move or elevate in some cases. And there's grants out there. And I think FEMA is going to continue to offer grant money to these repetitive loss structures. That's a good thing.
Absolutely.
Again, these people did nothing wrong. They live in a home that's just low to the ground, and they might not have the money to elevate their home.
Is there a way for people that have had repetitive loss and many insurance claims learn more about possible grants?
Call your community. Every community has a flood hazard mitigation specialist in their community, and there are many grants out there. So most grants have to do with a recent damage or having multiple claims. And when I say multiple claims, you've had a minimum of 2 claims that equal the value of your structure. So it has to be kind of a big number that FEMA's paid out, but that money is available.
Do grants and benefits for raising and so on and so forth go away the farther you get from a big storm? Like, after Sandy, there's probably, a lot of opportunities and options available for homeowners. You get farther removed from a big storm, and we're getting these minor events. There's probably no extra incentives coming, right?
No, correct. FEMA, when they calculate, they're looking at how many claims you've had within a 10-year period. So if we don't have any more claims for the next 10 years, our flood losses, then those grants are going to go away. Okay. I personally believe we're going to see more flooding claims, so I'm not worried about that.
Right.
And it's the low-lying structures that are always the first to have the damage.
Right. And we're seeing, and you mentioned it off the top, we're seeing more minor flooding these days, right? The nuisance flooding, the stuff where the Black Horse Pike closes, or they did a pretty good job fixing 9th Street in Ocean City. But let's say the Lagoon area, or like the Wildlife Reserve area, those flood-prone areas flood more often now. You may not always get the big one, but the occurrence of minor to even moderate tidal flooding events has been steadily rising over the years. Whatever you want to attribute the cause to, it has been happening more often because we've been issuing more warnings and advisories, and that's something that coastal residents have to contend with now. Right.
One more thing about the private market, I know we've talked a lot about it, is it's not really just about saving money. The coverage in really all cases is better than the FEMA requirement. So FEMA says this is the minimum coverage on a policy, and private market has said we're going to come out and we're going to offer replacement cost on your contents. FEMA policies offer actual cash value, which is a depreciated amount. Private market is offering loss of income if you have a rental property. They're offering loss of use. If you have to move out of your home and rent another structure, you can get that coverage on private market. You cannot get it on a FEMA policy. So
those are benefits of the private market. Are there benefits to FEMA versus the private market?
No.
There isn't.
FEMA is the most basic policy you can buy.
Right.
In every case, private market has broader coverage.
Okay.
Now, what would you recommend homeowners do in order to learn more about private market if they currently have a FEMA policy?
Yeah.
How could they learn more about possibly switching over?
It's really just as simple as a phone call to your insurance agent. And some agents do more flood insurance than others, so you want to make sure you call someone who has access to private market and is knowledgeable on how to
now, does
submit
your agency handle both?
We do, yeah.
Okay.
We have a lot of FEMA business, and we're actually moving a lot of our customers to private market. For our customers, we're actually rating it for them so that they don't even have to ask us. And we're going to just be offering those quotations when their FEMA policy renews. So you really don't have, if you're a customer of us, you don't have to do anything. We're going to do it for you.
On our second anniversary show, a year from now, if you are our yearly anniversary guest,
I'll be thrilled if I'm invited.
How are you going to look back at the next year? I'm going to ask you to forecast. Where do you think we are a year from now? Hopefully storm-free, hopefully no hurricanes, but like anything coming in the next year that you foresee, or is it just more of the same, more mitigation, more awareness? Is it just continue doing what we're doing?
I think it's a lot more of what we've seen from each community in stepping up their game to get the maximum FEMA discount for those policyholders that are going to remain with FEMA. That's a good thing, but it's not only about saving money. These communities are doing a ton of things to just make their communities more sustainable. The dune management is better, the bulkhead systems, the water pumping stations, getting rid of that rainwater that you talked about out of the town. So it's not always just about flood insurance, it's what else can we do to just make our towns more livable.
Right.
So that's a very good thing. I think private market is going to become, right now it's probably 10% of the flood insurance market. I think it's going to be 70 or 80% someday.
Really? Okay.
I think FEMA is going to be there kind of for the policy holder that just has a structure that just continues to have flood claims over time. But that's going to take a couple years for that to happen.
Okay. And then everyone will be at level 3 in CIL.
Or
by next
2
year
or
this time.
1.
Right, yeah, absolutely.
I've heard that 45% is the best discount.
Wow.
Okay.
So as great as CIL
So we still have a little
we got to
room
push
for
them to
improvement.
45.
That's right.
Now, for our 1-year anniversary show, if you have any comments or highlights over the last year, favorite shows, favorite guests,
Yeah, we
you don't have to put him. But.
We started this. It started on Tuesday nights at 7 p.m.
Yeah.
and we did shift to Sunday nights. So we're glad you guys stay with us. Of course, all our shows post on our Facebook page, my Facebook page, which if you're watching it here, the New Jersey Coastal Coalition Facebook page, available also on
Instagram. Did you say Instagram?
I did not.
Okay, we have Instagram, YouTube. The coalition's website is coastalcoalition.com, which is also on our Facebook page. And yeah.
That's right. Let's just say some hellos really quickly. Again, people asking about the imminent tidal flooding. There is one opportunity tomorrow morning. High tides like 7, 8 a.m. Minor flooding expected. Wednesday, the high tide would be 2 hours later. So mid-morning, probably some minor tidal flooding as well. We have a full moon. The February full moon is the full snow moon, guys.
Okay.
Every full moon is a nickname. And we'll have a little snow Wednesday morning. I think it'd be develop in the morning. It'd be an inch or two of snow, and then it probably gets washed away by some rain. Some every week viewers are here. Nice to see you, Kristen Kaiser.
Yeah, thank you for watching.
Appreciate.
This year.
I mean, whether you're every week or whether you're a new viewer, I'd like to have you guys on here. Dan Barone, nice to see you. Jeff Davis, hi to you. Dee Krause, Sandra Cortez, Paula Ann Reynolds, Amy Cope, nice to have you. Hope you're having a safe drive back. Margaret Fell, always nice to hear and see from you as well. And Carol Oakes. Good evening to you guys. Appreciate it all. And as always, Tom does such a good job of explaining everything.
No
There's no questions at all.
Okay.
He has a seasoned guest for you.
One more thing, and people say, will my mortgage company accept private market? And the answer is yes, they have to.
Okay. So that's universal.
It's universal. They
Okay.
can't say, well, we don't take that. It's the law.
Okay. Is there anything that we did not ask of you that you wanted to be asked?
No, you were very thorough.
Okay.
And I would just like to compliment both of you guys. You guys do a terrific
come
Publix.
Oh, stop.
No, I mean, really, you're here every week. You've provided a lot of information. You have different guests in that all have a different perspective, but still, we're all in this together. And the fact that you guys are so dedicated to this really is amazing. So thank you for what you do.
And we're looking forward to a great lineup of guests in our second year. And again, we try to, pull from, from municipal to private industry and insurance and elevation and home raising and just about every first responders. Good point. And it's really all of New Jersey. It started out as the Atlantic Cape Coastal Coalition. Atlantic and Cape May counties, and we had Ocean County here last week as a great guest, and expanding up the shore towards Monmouth and Middlesex County, because it's something that's universal to anyone who floods. So we're really happy to be doing what we're doing, and appreciate you guys being here every Sunday night. You can come on down to the Irish Pub 7 p.m., or you can always watch online.
And of course, you know what what we'll be presenting you with.
You can't
Is
have
this number 2 or 3?
It's number
it's
3.
The third
but you,
Irish Pub.
you
t-shirt
can't
for
have
you.
too many Irish Pub
Absolutely
T-shirts. I'm trying to get to 7, so I can
Oh,
just
boy.
every day just wear an Irish Pub shirt.
And
Now-
it's more than the Ocean City Pub
And I
shirts
don't
you
have a green
here.
one.
Right,
I
you
have a
green
black
That's
one
good.
and a navy one.
Okay.
The green might be my color, though.
I think so.
Tom Heist from Tom Heist Insurance. Very valued and very integral supporter of the New Jersey Coastal Coalition. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Dan.
And
My pleasure.
last thing, do you have a Facebook or website that people
We
could
do
find your information?
ThomasHeistInsurance.com, and we have a Facebook page, which we actually do storm alerts. We do
nice.
helpful videos. We actually do a lot on Facebook.
Now, is your famous jingle available for download for texts and ringtones?
If you YouTube,
I
not for
think it's
ringtones,
already
if you
my
YouTube it, you
ringtone.
could probably find it.
I
No
made
need
it
to
my
do that,
ringtone.
though.
I won't do that. I think
No,
we did
please.
that on your first show. Tom Heist, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Dan.
All right,
Good night,
we'll see you guys
everyone.
back
Thank you,
here
Palma.
next Sunday. Happy anniversary.